Thank you very much, Alas Concorda. Minister, I welcome the fact that you issued a statement recently in regard to the approvals in respect of TAMS, and I know that there have been delays with TAMS in the past, so I very much welcome the issue of approvals. I think it's very important to get approvals underway as quickly as possible, and I'm particularly anxious that people who've applied for accommodation in respect of animal welfare issues and also the storage of slurry and manure, that those approvals issue. And I welcome the fact that once again you are attaching a priority to those type of applications. Very important from several points of view, both from animal welfare and also from an environmental point of view, that those type of projects should be given priority. Thank you, Alas Concorda.
Thanks, Deputy Smith, for raising this. And I know as Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, you put massive investment in through TAMS, through the then TAMS scheme, which made a massive difference on farms right across this country. And thanks for raising it and your continued pressing of this scheme and the successor scheme over the last number of months. The TAMS 3 scheme, as you know, provides grants to farmers to build or improve specified range of farm buildings and farm equipment holdings. I've significantly increased the number of items you can claim on under this TAMS 3 compared to before. Up until last year, there was 300 items which were eligible for either 40% or 60% grant aid. It's now around 430. So a massive improvement from last year to this year in terms of government backing of on-farm investment. Overall, the scheme, as a result, as you can understand, has proved very popular. The first tranche of TAMS 3, which closed on the 30th of June past, had a record 8,241 applications across the various sectors. And applications received across all of the measures then in Tranche 1 are being processed over the last period of time. Once that initial processing is completed, all applications are subject to a ranking and selection process, but we've accepted all 100% into that as well. To assist farmers that required the construction of slurry and manure storage facilities for this spring, and obviously we're waiting on an approval and needed it urgently, and I provided an urgent facilitation so that farmers that needed to get the work done were able to apply and be able to do it this winter and into this spring. And as a result of that, we've issued 252 approvals under that. Non-priority approval letters now for the Tranche 1 applications have commenced, starting with the Solar Capital Investment Scheme, and it's anticipated that the majority of these approvals under Tranche 1 will be issued by April coming. To address the issue where approval is required urgently, my department is again putting in place a mechanism that will allow applicants or their advisors who have an urgent need to commence work to contact the department local office and to have their application expedited. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you, Minister, for the reply and the progress that you are making with TAMS. Minister, I understand why you would have a closing date tomorrow in regard to the Tranche 2, and planners have been under extreme pressure because of the number of schemes, and unfortunately some may be caught that hadn't submitted applications, and I understand at the same time that you want to get to the next cohort of farmers as well. So it's important that that they're processed as quickly as is possible, because unfortunately when people make plans, they're putting in place financial arrangements, and unfortunately costs continue to rise. Just one thing, Minister, with regard to housing and slurry and manure storage capacity as well. I know from my own time in the Department of Farm Waste Management Scheme how important it was in respect of farms, particularly in the less advantaged areas. One issue, and it's not strictly within the question today, is the exclusion of dribble bars from grant aid. You will know, Minister, the type of terrain, the drumlin country we have in Cavan, etc. We have hilly land, heavy land, not free drainage. So the exclusion of dribble bars creates particular problems from those smaller scale farmers who want to do as much environmental work as is possible. Maybe that could be considered for inclusion once again.
Yeah. Thanks, Deputy Smith. So, just to follow on from what I was saying earlier as well, so 100% of all applications, the 8,000 plus that applied in Tranche 1, were approved. So ranking and selection didn't. Anybody that applied was eligible for the grant. Then yesterday, I made a decision then in relation to Tranche 2. It has been open since the start of July. And anybody that's been applied between July and now, and roughly up until a few days ago, we'd almost 3,000 applications in that. So I wanted to make sure that we could close that tranche in a way that they could start to be processed. because I want them, those ones that have applied for that want to do their work next year to be able to get on with it. If I'd let that tranche run much longer, it would have run into the start of next year and would have affected that. Also then, by announcing a closing date, I didn't want to, announce it for the 1st of January or something, because advisors have had it tough enough here, and I didn't want them having an avalanche coming at them in the next week or two in the run-up to Christmas of new applicants. But I wanted to give 2 or 3 days at the same time, that if they had something on their desk which was near completion, that they could get it in. So that's why the closing date is tomorrow evening. And then the next closing, I also announced in the process, the next closing date will be the 12th of April. So the next tranche will close the 12th of April. So anybody submits their application from next week onwards, they'll get to the 12th of April. And we've also I'm still considering the dribble bar issue, Deputy Smith, and I acknowledge the point you're making in that.
Minister, I very much welcome your confirmation that you're considering the dribble bar, because I know in my own territory, we're all more familiar with our own constituencies than elsewhere. Farmers want to invest, but there are big costs involved. And you take the person now with the nitrogen, the 150 kg as well, the difficulty that will arise for those people that have to invest in that particular machinery, and then they may not be able to get grant aid. So from the point of view, if you can make progress on including the dribble bar again, it would be very beneficial, both from an environmental point of view and from the individual farmers as well. Thank you, Alaska Corda.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, it's a very fair point, the point you're making about terrain, and it's been made to me. Under the outgoing TAMS scheme up until the end of last year, for a dribble bar, less low emission slurry spreading machine, or for the trailing shoe one, the grant aid was 40%. Now, the trailing shoe machine is more expensive than the dribble bar, and it's also bigger. But some of the research that come through to me was that the emissions reductions and the efficiency of the trailing shoe was much better than the dribble bar. So that's why we haven't included the dribble bar at the moment, because if you're making a big long-term investment like that, you want to make sure that if something's going to be around the farm for a long time, that it actually is good and efficient. And what we did then is we increased actually the grant aid for the more expensive trailing shoe machine to 60%. So the net cost to the farmer would be the same as if they'd bought a dribble bar. But you have a point in relation to terrain, and listen, I'll consider that, and I'm also awaiting finalising further research around the emissions efficiency before making a final decision on whether to re-include it or not. And I would say, just a final point, Laskin Corla, in the decisions I made yesterday, once again for tranche 2, I've approved all 100% of valid applicants, and anyone who has a mobile application can go ahead and buy it at own risk on the basis it will be recouped back.
Thank you.